Neuromuscular junction. Neuro, nervous system. Muscle, muscle. And then the junction is where they're communicating. So, we haven't studied the nervous system yet. We will save that lovely one for next semester, which is extremely hard. Yeah. So you'll have a muscle, you'll have a, not a muscle, but a body. You should remember this kind of from biology. Y'all probably covered a little bit of it. So you'll have a cell body of the nervous system, and then it will come down and have what's called an axon. And then you have the very end of that is called an axon terminal. Terminal meaning the end. If I was terminally ill, that means sorry, there's no help for you. It's coming to an end. You're going to die. Bam. So an axon terminal is the very end of it. The axon terminal has vesicles of acetylcholine. Now, just like the filaments of actin and myosin, and that's what they're showing right here is your thin and thick filaments, these two things do not touch. So your axon terminal is not actually sitting on top of the muscle cell, it's just hovering over it. So the space in between there is called something that you have to know as well. It's called a synapse. Don't you love all these terms that you've never heard before that now you have to know by Monday?
No.
Yeah. So synapse, or they call it synaptic cleft because it's kind of hollowed out, little divot in it, in that muscle cell. This is where when those vesicles of acetylcholine travel to the surface of that axon terminal, they're spit out into this space. And it is cleft or an indentation so they can catch them. They then flow down, travel, and they hit and attach to receptors for acetylcholine. And this is the, so what was, oh, do you remember? Let me hide it. Do you remember from like 10 seconds ago, what is the cell membrane called of a muscle cell?
Sarcoplasm.
That's the watery part side of it, but it is sarco something.
Sarcolemma.
Sarcolemma. Yes, that's it. Sarcolemma. So, yes, A+. So there are receptors on that cell wall or that cell membrane, the sarcolemma. There are receptors for acetylcholine. So those chemicals, they're called neurotransmitters. This does not go away. You'll see this in the nervous system. These neurotransmitters, just like dopamine, that's another neurotransmitter we'll see in the nervous system. And you've heard lots about dopamine, like with depression and things. So acetylcholine travels down, attaches to those receptors for acetylcholine. And what that does is it converts this electrical impulse to a chemical one. So now floodgates open on this cell. The floodgates that open are sodium. So we'll take sodium from outside the cell, rush it inside the cell, and then we have another chemical reaction. And that chemical reaction will travel down to this myofibril with its myofilaments of actin and myosin and cause, golly, this is so much. I'm so sorry. But it'll cause your sarcoplasmic reticulum to release calcium. Ooh, are you like, what the heck are you even talking about? So I know this is horrible, and it's not going to get a lot better. I'll try, again, the videos, and I'll try to go over and over and over it. So, myofibril, the whole cell membrane, or the whole cell itself, a muscle fiber, has a membrane, sarcolemma, which has receptors on it for acetylcholine. Good Lord, and this is how the nervous system is. The words for them are horrible. So acetylcholine, with its receptors, we have one little myofibril, which has myofilaments in it. These myofilaments are actin for atrophy, a little one, myosin for muscle, a big one. Inside this we have what are called your sarcoplasmic reticulum. which is like our smooth ER in a regular cell, doesn't have lipids, but it has calcium instead. So your sarcoplasmic reticulum holds calcium. When the stimulus comes down, it spits it out. And we remember that calcium was important because calcium binds to troponin and pulls it down out of the way. So then myosin, with its big bulging heads, can grab a hold of actin and pull it down. Oh my gosh, does it take a lot for one muscle contraction? Yeah. I mean, this isn't even a muscle contraction. This is a myofibril. You're contracting unit shortening. That's not even the muscle contraction yet. I mean, all of them doing it will make one muscle contract. Okay. And remember that a unit of these myofibrils is one sarcomere. So a sarcomere, the sarcomere contains contracting filaments, actin and myosin. I would know that. A sarcomere is a unit. It has actin and myosin. You're contracting proteins. Sure. Here's that T-tubule that was on that one picture somewhere. T-tubule, there it is. So it's that channel that just transports that contraction through. So you can see then it'll not only go but through that fibril to the next one, because your fibrils can be grouped as, remember, fibrils mean a muscle cell. You have one or you can have 100. So we may need a bunch of those T-tubules. Ooh, I do not envy you guys because this stuff is yucky.
It is.
Okay. So, I just want to review because it sucks. Okay. So a muscle fibril is one of those tiny things. Bunch them together. We get a muscle cell. Bunch of muscle cells together, you get a fascicule. A bunch of those together, you have a muscle, finally. Finally we get one. One muscle cell has a bunch of myofibrils in it. The muscle cell has a cell membrane called your sarcolemma. And remember, the sarcolemma has the receptors for acetylcholine on it. Here is your sarcoplasmic reticulum. Through here, through here, through here, through here. It contains calcium because we have to have it attached down in here so that we can get those troponins out of the way and they can start grabbing and contracting, shortening. T-tubules go all the way through. Sarcoplasm, we have that inside, just the fluid part. Mitochondria within that cell. But then your myofibril has your sarcomere. Sarcomere, remember, is just a unit of actin and myosin, so this whole thing would be a sarcomere inside your myofibril, which is then inside a muscle cell. Sarcoplasmic reticulum releases calcium when it gets the message from acetylcholine, attaches to troponin, troponin moves out of the way, so your big heads of myosin can grab a hold of your actin. So then this will start to slide and shorten for a contraction. So impulse comes down, axon terminal releases acetylcholine, turning this electrical impulse into a chemical impulse. Acetylcholine attaches to your receptors for acetylcholine that are on the sarcolemma of this muscle cell, causes the endoplasmic reticulum in here to spit out calcium. Calcium attaches to that troponin on your myofibril, so the big heads can then grab and pull and shorten this sarcomere, making a contraction. Finally, we get to move on. So, those contractions, so this would be an overcontraction. That means we're contracting with everything that we possibly can. You've got calcium pulling those troponins out of the way, and myosin grabbing it, and shortening it to where it cannot shorten anymore. extremely contracted. Rigor mortis would be a good example. And what happens with that is, without us breathing, we're not going to be making any more ATP, so we won't have any more energy. And so all the calcium that was released is just laying out there. Everything's contracted and it won't release. So it just stays contracted. Optimum resting length. So we don't like it overstretched like this here. And the reason is, remember, they are not touching. So they only have this tiny bit of space to grab and pull that. So it's going to take a lot longer to get that pulled together. Whereas if we have it a little contracted, like your muscles are in a state of incomplete tetanus. So they're slightly contracted. We also call that muscle tone. Muscle tone is, you know how your arms and your legs look, especially think about legs. If you look at someone that is a paraplegic and you hold their leg up, you know, their calf just hangs. Looks like loose skin, like there's no muscle there at all. It's because they're overly stretched, overly relaxed, because they're not getting any chemical electrical impulse to tell that muscle, hey, contract just a little bit. So your muscles are constantly a little bit contracting here and there. So remember, they're made up of a bunch of stuff. So you can have a few myofibrils contracting while other ones are like, okay, finally I can relax. And then the other ones will start contracting and you'll relax. But that's how you're sitting and doing what you're doing right now. Because if all your myofibrils are relaxing, then your head would be just like rolling around and you couldn't hold it up. Plus, if, you know, Mr. Gordon come in here and was threatening to beat us all up, then we would want to run out of here or fight him. We would need to do it really quickly. So if your muscles are slightly contracted, we can do something quick. That means, like, you know, if you've ever been walking along and you see a snake, you jump. You don't even think about it. You jump and you're out of the way. That's because your muscles are slightly contracted. You can do that. Okay, so overstretch, it's going to take a while for us to be able to contract again. We don't want to be like that. Geared muscle contraction, the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which is like our smooth ER. Smooth ER contains lipids, but endoplasmic reticulum contains what?
ATP.
Calcium.
Oh, calcium.
It contains calcium, so it'll release calcium.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're done. You're done.
A motor unit is that one neuron. And so this neuron that we were looking at, this neuromuscular junction, this one neuron can talk to a bunch of myofibrils. It can be a few, it can be 100. So there could be a bunch of those. So that's what they're calling a motor unit. A motor unit is a neuron talking to a bunch of motor or fibers. Threshold, there is amount of energy needed or electrical impulse coming down to cause a contraction. So if you don't go over that threshold, you will never get a contraction. Muscle will do nothing. That muscle cell will do nothing. But if you meet that, then you'll have that contraction. So a impulse out, and that's it. No more impulses coming behind is a twitch. That's just that one quick movement. So think about eyes twitching. That's what's happening here. You're having nerve impulses. So frequency, the strength, types of contractions we're needing to do, depending on if you're wanting to pick up a pencil, you're not going to use the same strength and contraction that you would use to pick up, say, a desk.
Deadlift 250.
Can you show rapid contraction?
That's my phone on my
Okay, So rapid contraction with partial relaxation is what's going on right now with your muscles. Incomplete tetanus. So they're contracting and they're relaxing. Some of them will contract, some of them will relax. They'll go back and forth. Incomplete. Complete would be kind of like rigor mortis. They don't let up. And that's your cramps. They're not letting up. You do need to know the difference between, if you're in sports, you probably know, isometric and isotonic contractions. Isometric, especially for basketball, why in the world they always made us do those wall sits, I don't know. Stupid, and I hate it.
Oh.
But wall sits, that would be an
Not
isometric. So iso meaning equal, same measurement, metric meaning measurement. So you're not moving, you're not continually contracting. The muscles are contracted, but you just sit. Or you hold something, you know, and, huh?
Those things suck.
Yeah, they do. They're stupid.
I do it with a 45-pound weight.
Yeah, that's even better. So isometric would be like what you're used to doing. So instead of just sitting and not moving, it would be, say, squats, where you are moving, contracting, and relaxing. Isotonic.
Squat.
Isometric, we're not moving. Iso, equal measurement.
I always keep you squatting, Steve.
Energy, we've got, you need to know, like right now sitting here, you're breaking down and using fatty acids, which come from protein. So you would think, what do you think we would break down first? Fat or protein?
Protein.
Yeah, most of you think you break down fat, but no, you're right, you break down protein. You sitting here relaxing, you're breaking down protein and converting it to fatty acids. We save fat. We save it and save it. Because what will happen if, you know, everything crashes and we have no food? Oh, thank God we have our fat we can hang on to. So yeah, we hang on to fat. And that's why it's very important when you are trying to build muscle, you don't go more than how many days without lifting?
I work out at least twice a day.
You don't go more than 2 days without lifting because you're breaking down muscle. That's why they said 2 days of rest, you know, that's a little much. You need to lift pretty frequently.
Well,
And they'll alternate muscle groups and all kinds of crazy stuff. But that will help keep that muscle build up. Because like Devin, that's got lots of muscle, for him to function normally, does he need all that muscle? No, he does not. Because Jason's getting by just fine. Jason's living daily life without any issues.
All girls, yes. They look
And that's the point. We don't need muscle, but our bodies are hardwired. Oh my gosh, we may need this fat though. What if we go into starvation? We got to have fat. We don't need muscle.
The difference between me and Devin, though, you know, he lifts like he says twice a day. I haven't lifted in like a year, and yesterday I did 10 push-ups, and
Well, you know why? Do you know why it's easy for you to do 10 push-ups though?
huh?
Why it is easy for you to do 10 push-ups is because you're moving body weight.
Yeah.
So when you are trying to start working out, and if you've got a lot of body weight, it's going to be hard to move. But if you don't have a lot of body weight, it's easier. You lose weight, body weight movements get easier. Push-ups, pull-ups, all that gets easier if you lose weight. So you already don't have a lot of weight to worry about. So your body weight movements should be good. Now the muscles, yeah, they need some working out. So especially for my girls, guys not so much. They're not so much into, you know, fighting to lose weight and things. And I have to preach to my husband forever and ever and ever.
I'm trying to gain.
We are hardwired to less calories in, you know, more energy out, we'll lose weight. Problem is if you drastically cut your calories back, then what does your body do? Yeah, they're like, oh my God, we're starving. We're starving, we're starving. Let's break down this muscle. We need energy, so you'll break down muscle. And then things that you finally do eat, it hangs on to every bit of it. Metabolism drops because you're like, whoa, slow down because we're in starvation mode. Don't ramp up, slow down. So it's really, really bad not to eat.
Yeah, that's
starving.
why they try to lose weight so fast because they don't eat for like
Yeah,
all
and
day.
you know, and there
I'm
are
like, what
people
do
that
you
lose
eat?
weight really quick not eating,
Yeah.
but what do they lose?
Muscle.
They lose a lot of muscle. They get really flabby.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy right now, he's lost like 30 pounds, but he is just like skin and flab. There's no muscle. Yeah. So that's why it's really important, you know, do the every 3 hours eating, which you can't because you're in school and it bites. You should be able to eat every 3 hours, but you can't. And the right type of calories, putting the right type of foods in you, but eating every 3 hours so you keep your metabolism up. If you eat every 3 hours, you're constantly, you have a glucose level that's steady rather than dropping and spiking. When we spike, we store. We drop, crap, starvation, metabolism drops. If we keep it level, then your body's like, oh, well, there's plenty of food. We're not in starvation. I'll leave that muscle alone, and we'll ramp up this metabolism. I know, hard concept for a lot of people to understand.